I am particularly pleased tonight to be here in St. Joseph in this campaign, which has served the purpose of educating our party members and the wider national public as to what our position is on a lot of matters. Because when we talk about Trinidad and Tobago business, we talk about the PNM and that business. We of the PNM is the source of that information. At the open forum tonight, a number of people spoke, and I just want to address a couple of the things that they spoke about. The First Lady spoke about the traffic going through East Grove. I am sure the chairman of the corporation would have heard you, and I'm sure that your MP would have heard you, because that is something that ought not to be happening. The streets in East Grove are not streets for the main road traffic. And tonight I'm asking the chairman of the corporation and the MP to ensure that that little that has to be done, which is a barrier of some kind, which will allow pedestrian exit and egress, but which will prevent vehicular traffic from going through East Grove. We call these things irritants, but small as they might be, they affect you in an annoying kind of way. And the solution is not a big, complex one. Just put something in place to discourage, but to prevent the main road traffic from taking a shortcut through what is a quiet residential subdivision. I'm sure the corporation can handle that. The other matter that I want to touch on, Mr. Bihari, I was very impressed with your presentation on behalf of your community. And you very eloquently raised some issues that are exercising my mind and that of the party leadership. Suffice it to say tonight, I won't go into a lot of details about the fundamental matters you raise, except to comfort you in letting you know that we will not be giving new candidates 3 months to prepare themselves for a general election. Hitherto, we would go into a general election and largely rely on identifying our candidates, our standard bearers, in the season and the eve of the election. Most times relying on the element of surprise to give us that push up. I don't subscribe to that. Sometimes you have no choice but to wait until late to get the right candidate. But since I took over this party as political leader, I've been saying to my colleagues in the leadership, I will do things differently on that score. In those constituencies where there are no MPs, and the ones that we consider to be, well, I don't want to use the word marginal, I want to use the word very competitive. You need to give your standard bearer time to sell him or herself to the community. Let the community know who the PNM's choice is early, and give them time to work. On many occasions in those seats, we lose by not a huge margin. And you have to ask yourself, had a proper campaign been going on there for 6 or 9 months or a year, could we have pulled back 400 or 500 votes, which would have made the difference between defeat and victory? On this occasion, in those competitive seats, we will be going in there early, long before they call the election, and if they call it, we'll be there. But to do that, we want you, the constituencies, to be part of the process. Take responsibility for identifying for the screening committee quality candidates. Give us a choice. The screening committee will choose the best person for the job, and we will put them out there early to campaign, known to all and sundry that this man or this woman is the PNM standard bearer for the next election. So very soon, you would be called in such constituencies to identify and to nominate prospective PNM candidates. That's part of the process that's been taking place, and we'll go there. So, Mr. Bihari, that's our thinking, and we'll execute that in the coming months. Someone also talked about the condition of life in the housing in Kiriap, the amenities. All the amenities that you mentioned there and the things that you talk about, these are matters that could be addressed by the Member of Parliament, who I'm sure He walks so often in Korea that I'm sure he's going to, if he hasn't walked in your district yet, he's going to be very, very soon, because he's a walking member of parliament. And I'm sure that between the corporation, which you have now given us the responsibility for allocating the resources, we don't have enough resources for everything. But I'm sure that Chairman Gooding and your councillor and your MP can address the issue of amenities in the housing area of Curep. Curep has become quite a desirable location for housing. We've built, as part of our national housing program, a significant amount of houses in the area, and you're now having, first it was you had no house. Now you have houses, and you have the problems that go with houses. So the amenities, the maintenance, the establishment, I would like to hear when I talk to you again in Curep that the community of Curep housing has had these matters addressed, and you address them as a community. And once you meet in San Fernando, again, I hate to point to it, I hold out to you what we've been doing in San Fernando is that we have these community meetings where the councillor in a particular district invites people to come to a particular venue, and within the corporation, you discuss these matters. You tell them what resources you have, and you tell them what priorities you'll be addressing, and treat with this as community matters of the council. That's what the PNM constitution would be doing, and I'm sure the MP would guide that. So your pleas would not fall in deaf ears. And of course, the other one that was raised, the whole question of illegal immigrants. And I noticed that there was a response from the audience which indicates that you are aware of some major issue with respect to illegal immigrants. Well, Trinidad and Tobago is a desirable place for most people. Notwithstanding the fact that we here have a lot of negatives to say about our country, there are millions outside who like to get in here, and they've been coming in thick and fast. But in an environment where law enforcement is falling down every day, I would be surprised if the laws that pertain to illegal immigrants are the only ones being enforced in the country. It's all a part of the general malaise where the country is not being properly managed and the law enforcement is poor. We are also to acknowledge that we do have some commitments to our CARICOM neighbors who have some freedom of movement to our country, not total freedom, but they can come and visit us as often as they like, and when they come, they can stay for a little while, and some of them stay longer than the law permits. But the law enforcement arrangements are to, in a humane manner, treat with this, and I'm sure that this is something that at the national level, the government is responsible for, and the PNM government will have the same kinds of problems to treat in an ongoing matter, because it's not going to stop. People will always want to come. The day this country becomes the place that nobody wants to come to, you're going to be out of here. And also bear in mind, as you develop an opinion on immigrants in your own country, bear in mind that in somebody else's country, some of your family there, and you want them to be treated in a particular way. So immigration is something that we have to ensure that we don't get swamped by immigrants, and that the laws of our country are observed and enforced. And we also have to bear in mind that we are welcoming our CARICOM neighbors, welcome to come and go as we go and visit them and so on. But I put it in the context where there are problems of illegal immigration in the country causing problems. It is all part of a wider non-enforcement of the laws in Trinidad and Tobago. And as I advocate all along that the quality of life in this country can improve significantly overnight, if we take the decision that we will enforce the existing laws and regulations, not only on illegal immigrants, but on those of us who are not immigrants in this land. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the people of St. Joseph for your indication of support for my candidacy and that of the team of 2014 that I've held out to you. Thank you very much for that indication. Thank you very much, Mr. Imbert, for identifying the job specification of opposition leader, political leader. These are serious offices. I don't know how many people take time to look at what the jobs call for, because I get the impression that our national community only pays attention to these things when they fail. When something has failed and there's a problem, then you get attention being paid. But it might be good to pay attention to it before. And that's what we're saying now. As you are about to embark upon choosing a leader for this organization, bear in mind that you are hiring somebody to do a very significant job. I have no problem with my colleague from Point Fortin, who is opposition leader in waiting. You know what she did? As Mr. Imbert is calling out those who are qualified for the job, she puts up her hands and said, "Not me. Not me." You understand what I mean? You know why? You know why? Because I think she has a good idea of what is involved in these jobs. And she put up her hand early and said, "Not me." But somebody has to be there. And I've been there for a while. You know, in Jamaica, there's a slang. It says, "Want you can't get, and get you don't want." So I think there's some of that that's taking place. The person who wants the job is not going to get it, and the person who has it doesn't want it. So anyway, you know, Mr. Ember tonight pointed out the seriousness of the decision that you have to make. And when I say I'm running on my record, it is because I want you to pay attention of what has come my way in the period that I've led this party, and even before. My record goes way back to my first appearance on a PNM platform in 1980. I was a junior speaker on a platform as the backup or the opening act to the erudite presentation of Bonnie Padmore in Bell Garden in Tobago in 1980. I didn't hold office then, but I've been in the party 6 years, having joined this party in Tunapuna in 1974, Party Group 7. That's where my PNM roots are. And that was a very serious campaign. It was the first Tobago House of Assembly election in 1980, when we were facing the might of rejection in Tobago. And I cut my teeth then on the PNM platform. And then I came out and ended after a period in opposition. I think this is probably my 15th year in opposition. It's a long time to be in opposition. But it's the best place to prepare for government. The best place to prepare for government is in the opposition. And if you look back on it, you find that on every occasion when people end up in government without having passed through the forge of opposition, you get a bad government. But where we in the PNM have been in opposition, we have come to government with serious reflections, policies, programs, and plans that can be executed. In this period in the opposition, I was tested. And a lot of the scribes, not the Pharisees, just the scribes, they usually come out in front and are either unsupportive or painfully critical. I remember taking part in the creation of a law in the parliament. And in that law, the government, led by the Prime Minister, inserted certain clauses which we had concerns about. When Clause 34 came from the Senate, and we raised it as a concern, you say we flagged it. What is this? the government saw our concern, acknowledged our concern, comforted us by saying, we give you the assurance that so will not happen. We're in St. Joseph tonight. It was the former member of parliament for St. Joseph who eventually got himself out of parliament on this same assurance which he gave, that we will not do this. And it doesn't matter how they spin it, how they turn it, how they try to share the blame and the shame of it. When we flagged Section 34 as a concern, they said, this will not be done. It will not be done within a certain time frame at all. And therefore there was no threat of the outrage that took place. That is why when they gave those assurances, and we took them at their word as honorable men and women, and we discovered that on Independence Night, when the fireworks were going off, they were sneaking like Nicodemus into the president's house, asking the president to proclaim Section 34 to allow their friends to go to court in the morning. All of this was unbeknownst to us. Having given assurances in the parliament that you will not do that, this prime minister, who wants to hold herself up as somebody who we should acknowledge as having something superior to her government, and therefore an unpopular government can be led by a popular prime minister. This prime minister, head of the cabinet, authorized that secret proclamation of Section 34. We found out from the newspapers that the government had done that. And I, as your leader, had to be tested. I found out Sunday morning, happened to have been the day of, I think it was my constituency conference. And at 6 o'clock in the evening, I told the gathering, I told the country, I have faith in the innate decency of our people. I have faith in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is now 6 o'clock on Tuesday evening. Meet me in Port of Spain at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. We are going to object to what Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her government did. True to form, my friends in the media wrote an editorial on that Tuesday saying that I was reckless and I have put my political career on the line, because the day before the Tuesday, Moonilal was saying, oh, you're playing man. You will get 34 people with you. You will get 34 people with you on the streets of Port of Spain. But when 34,000 of you came out there that day, it was because as a PNM leader, I didn't flinch, according to the editorial, to put my career on the line, to tell you to do what was right, and I was prepared to lead 34 of you if only 34 of you came out. And that is what I represent as your leader. Tonight, I can tell you, after all that's been said and done, the only thing that has happened in the end of that is that a president of the Republic who was forced to invoke Section 81 for the first time in the history of the Republic. When I went leading the roundtable team to the president's house to put to him, Excellency, you have the power under Section 81 to ask the government any question about any aspect of the operations of the government, of the business of Trinidad and Tobago. The Attorney General jump up and say, the president can't intervene because if he intervenes, he will be entering the political arena, and he got a tongue lashing from the Attorney General even before he took a position on the matter. But once again, the Attorney General was giving advice that was fit for the outhouse. Because the president went and got proper legal advice, and he was told that under that section of the Constitution, he could ask the Prime Minister any question about any aspect of our business. And for the first time in the history of this country, a president wrote to a Prime Minister, asking the Prime Minister to explain what went on here. That is part of this country's history. And I played a role in that. Suffice it to say that the enormity of that development has not dawned on Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. Because she replied to the president, virtually telling him to go to hell, because she has already dealt with the matter. You think in France or Spain or New Zealand or anywhere like that, a prime minister could get a letter like that from a president, and rather than answering so that the population can know what the answer was and knowing whether criminals are running your country, and you could tell the president, I answer you and I done with that, and wait him out until he leaves office. And then, of course, while the Attorney General was telling us that no president could intervene and ask questions on a matter of this nature, because Section 81 was written there because they had waste ink and ink that they couldn't use, so they marked Section 81 with it, and it has no purpose. The new president comes in, straight from the bench, member of the judiciary. And what did he tell you? Powers you think I don't have? I have. That was him saying, Section 81 is there for me to use. And that is why, when I see them trying to rape the Treasury, I have written to the president, pointing out to him what this same cabinet is doing, led by the same prime minister, except that on this occasion, it is not crafting law in the parliament and misleading the parliament, but it has to do with shoveling money out of the Treasury into the pockets of their selected contractors. That is before the president today. And I have no doubt that if this president writes to this prime minister about the Beetham water treatment plant, she will give him the same answer that she gave former President Max Richards. Because they believe that they could face you down, they could ignore you, and they could do what they want, and nothing could happen to them. So we wait to see if the powers we have are the powers we think we don't have. We wait to see that. You know, I just mentioned to you that when they gave us those assurances, not once, not twice, repeatedly the Hansard, you will see the assurance. If those assurances were kept, Section 34 would never have become an issue in this country. And people would have gone to court, because the day when they went to court to use Section 34 was the day that they should have gone to court for the ending of the preliminary matter, and they would have gone to the High Court for a trial. The cabinet sold the mandate it got from the people to prevent that from happening, and all now is going on so that the day in court would not be had. And you know what happened in the interim? The Parliament has been working with experts from the IDB and from other parliaments, the Canadian Parliament, the New Zealand Parliament, the Indian Parliament, because we have a very, I must say what you want about Speaker Wade Mark. He has been very with it with respect to the Parliament and how the Parliament should be modernized. Give him that. I give him that. And he works with an outstanding public servant who is the clerk of the House. And together, they represent us very well on this matter of the Parliament. I'm not talking about the government. I'm making a distinction between the Parliament and the government. The government has its own label I won't use. But the Parliament and the potential for improving the Parliament, we've got a lot of help from the Canadian government. Canada has always been up front with Trinidad and Tobago and the region in trying to help us to be better. And we acknowledge the Canadian help. The IDB has worked with us. In that work has been done to develop a strategic plan for Trinidad and Tobago's Parliament. A number of committees have been identified as wanted in our new Parliament. You know what one of those committees is? A Committee on Government Assurance. You know what that means? The experts saw the outrage that took place with Section 34, where a government gave an assurance in the parliament, turned their back on it, went and did something else. And they're saying that if the government gives assurances to the parliament on any matter, the parliament must be able to monitor those assurances and to hold the government by parliamentary accountability to assurances given in the parliament. And if that was in place, when Mr. Emmanuel George was asked, why is Ganga Singh in the position of Chief Executive Officer in WASA? How did he get there? What is the process by which you used to choose Ganga Singh to be the CEO of WASA? He said he was there temporarily. And this is Minister Emmanuel George talking to the parliament and giving a commitment to the people of Trinidad and Tobago that was recorded in the Hansard, speaking with the authority of minister. Twice he said to us, he is there temporarily. When the new board is appointed, the post will be advertised and all applicants will be dealt with under that application, and a person to head WASA will be chosen from that process. We stopped our argument, we stopped our questions, and we waited for that to happen because the minister gave an assurance to the parliament. The next thing we know, in the face of that assurance to the parliament given by a minister in the presence of the prime minister allowed, encouraged, and afforded the board to secretly appoint Ganga Singh permanently as the head of the Water and Sewage Authority. Tonight, I ask you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, if you had a wife like that, would you trust her? If you had a husband like that, would you trust him? If you have a prime minister like that, would you trust her? I am simply telling you the facts of what has happened in my time. And I have had to raise these issues all the time because it goes with the job. And I am painted as the big bad wolf. So that today there's a campaign in the PNM for PNM leadership. And you know, the biggest barb they're throwing at me, I'm always complaining and arguing and being angry about matters of that nature. And I asked my colleague, tell me once, even on this occasion, on this matter, show me where you ever took issue with the Prime Minister on anything. Show me. It's show time. Show me. All of this has happened. Show me when you ever saw it fit to join the fight against that. I'm saying to you tonight, a good old Tobagonian saying, don't leave what you see in daylight to take bully faith to look for it in the night. Section 34 will forever remain an indelible stain on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and it is where this government lost its mandate. And I maintain that if our people were sufficiently prepared to make the sacrifice that others make around the world, this government would have ended its term in office on that expose of Section 34. And it fell to me, as leader of the opposition, to have prosecuted that matter. And I would like to know that when I go into battle on these matters for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, when I look behind me, all my lieutenants, all my soldiers, all my sergeants are there, ready, willing, and able to fight the fight. And my record will show that when I accept the responsibility of Field Marshal in the PNM, I don't pick my generals based on whether I like you or not. I pick my lieutenants and my generals on the ability to do the job. And that is why today I can point to you, a member of parliament who has grown leaps and bounds in the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and today she stands head and shoulders above all the others on the other side, Marlene MacDonald. She earns the respect of the government because when she stands up to speak in the parliament, she has something to say. And as Colum Imbert is the researcher, Marlene MacDonald prepares and comes to the parliament, and when she takes the floor, the government listens to learn. That's what I expect of my lieutenants. That's what I expect of my generals. And when I give you the opportunity, I put a piece of my capital at stake. When I select you and I give you the opportunity to function and you choose to do otherwise, complain the victim cuts no ice with me. I'm a hard man. I haven't heard it myself. But since I wouldn't be addressing you like this for a few days, because this is our last meeting for a few days, I want to address what I've heard. That it has been said in one of the alternative meetings that I betrayed the PNM twice. Let me put that nonsense to bed. I am nobody's lackey. And I've never been in love with office. So when it came to taking a position, putting a cabinet portfolio on the line, I have no problem in saying I don't agree. If at the expense of a portfolio being taken from me. And I must tell you, PNM people, a story. Our PNM cabinet was about to make a decision once. A very significant decision. It was on a weekend. And I was called to go to a cabinet meeting, impromptu cabinet meeting. And when I got there, all my colleagues were there. A lot of senators were ministers, and a lot of elected members were there. I was in my home jeans and I think a t-shirt in this meeting of the cabinet. And the significant decision had virtually already been taken, and this cabinet was going to, ratify it. And I stood my ground. I stood my ground on the basis that I cannot and will not explain this to my constituents tomorrow morning. There's no way I'm going to agree with this and explain it to my constituents tomorrow morning. And I'm here because they don't know what's going on, but they sent me here expecting that I will object to this. And I object. And how the cabinet functions is that they will try to persuade you to see if they can convince you to agree. Because the cabinet functions by getting an agreement. Not everybody will agree with everything, but you try to bring everybody around to a point of view that we all can accept. And then we go out and we're joint and severally bound. And my position then was, there's no way I'm going to agree to this. And what it meant is that I was prepared to walk away from the cabinet that day. And a very interesting thing happened. A vote was taken on the matter. Unfortunately, there were more elected members there than senators. And in the presence of the power of the chair of Prime Minister, Every senator voted with the Prime Minister, and every elected member voted on my position. And the action was not taken. And our history doesn't reflect the outcome of that action. The following day, the Prime Minister called me to his office. And he said to me, I'm not going to tolerate this. And I said, tolerate what? I'm not going to tolerate this indiscipline in the cabinet. I said, indiscipline? And he said, yes, what happened yesterday I'm not going to tolerate. I said, well, in which case, if you call it indiscipline, I, as a PNM member, will not be guilty of indiscipline in the cabinet. You can have my resignation now. And the conversation changed. I said, but I heard you. If I'm accused of indiscipline in the cabinet by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you can have my resignation now. And the conversation changed, and I remain a member of the cabinet unbeknownst to you. And that is how I see public office. I see public office that persons who serve in public office at the level at which we serve, when you come out of office with a good record, with an honorable discharge, you should be an asset to the country, not a leper. Not somebody who can't get a job. Somebody who has served in managing in the cabinet and managing a ministry in this small country with limited human resources, limited capital. Such persons ought to be persons who can continue to contribute, not to be despised and treated like they did something wrong by coming to serve you. And as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I will change that. Once you come out with an honorable discharge, you should be an asset to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, we have our partisan differences, but the line between partisanship and the Great Wall of China shouldn't be the same. So, it fell to me in this job to receive a complaint that it might very well be that the cabinet is engaging in criminal conduct. I didn't go out and leak it to a newspaper for sensationalism. I looked at it very carefully and I examined it against facts that were known to me. And when I satisfied myself that this ought not to be dismissed and the implications were so grave, if it can be confirmed that my feelings are right, I took the matter to the President of the Republic and requested of him that he engage the agency under the Constitution, the Integrity Commission, to use its powers, which are superior powers to the police, to find out whether these emails and the contents of these emails, and whether what was being fed to me by a whistleblower had substance against what we knew in the public domain. Because by then, we knew in the public domain that there were issues about the cabinet members interfering with certain media houses, even though they denied it. That there were issues in the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. We had heard about issues about attempting to influence who goes on the bench and who would leave the office of DPP. And I had people come to me quite separate and apart, indicating that certain ministers were posing a threat to the daughter and daughters of people who were working against them as they felt. When I put it all together, I asked the President to investigate it. After 6 months, nothing happened. I then thought that you, the people, when I thought that you, the people, should now know about this, I brought it to the one place where it could have been made known to you. I brought it to the Parliament so you could know what I had in my possession and what I passed to the President. You now call it email gate. And all of you who forgot, I ask you to cast your mind back to the day when I read those emails in the parliament. And I ask you to cast your mind back to the look on the faces of members in the government. And they left the parliament that evening like a basket of wet fowls. They went to meet their handlers in the night. They got advice. And they came back the next morning and turned it around as if I had done something wrong. And now they still bold-facedly, whenever the matter comes up, bold-facedly talk about they want justice from me because I slandered them in the parliament. These are the same people who were the architects of Section 34. They are the same people of all the allegations of corruption and wrongdoing. They are the same people who appointed a telephone operator as head of the security intelligence gathering. They are the same people who canceled the OPV and leave us naked. They are the same people who have done so many wrong things in 3.5 years that you can't believe that these are the people who tell you, put us in office and we shall rise, we shall rise. We've risen to a level of wrongdoing that this country never expected any government to have done. And I came to the parliament, and all I did in the parliament, as would have happened in England, in Canada, in India, in New Zealand, in Tanzania, I asked for an investigation. These people will go out of office having you accept that the sovereign state of Trinidad and Tobago, facing allegations of criminal conduct on the part of members of the cabinet, doesn't have it within us to investigate and find out what has happened there. They're asking you to go back to the polls and vote them back into office, having not got answers to that fundamental questions as to whether they were engaged in criminal conduct. That's what they're asking you to do. When I said I would prefer if the Integrity Commission investigates this matter, they made all kinds of red herring around Ken Gordon and myself. It doesn't change the price of cocoa. That the Integrity Commission has the power to investigate you under oath. A policeman does not have that power. You can tell a policeman, I have nothing to say. You can even lie to the policeman in the investigation. Under the Integrity in Public Life Act, you can be made to be punishable if you lie to the investigator, because they have that power. And you can be investigated under oath. The Attorney General jumps out and says, the Integrity Commission does not have that power. And who joined him in that? The Prime Minister. Two persons who made themselves senior counsel, claiming that they are experts in the law, experienced in the law, but they were leading you down the path that the Integrity Commission does not have the power to get an investigation done. Now, if anybody makes any allegation against me, as they have done on more than one occasion, the only thing I want is a proper investigation, because I want to clear my name. I want to clear my name, so I want an investigation. These people want to clear their name, but the only thing they don't want is a proper investigation. They want to clear their name by their own say-so. They say they're innocent. They say I am wrong. They say I did it myself. They say I should be punished. They say it should be dismissed. Judge, jury, and verdict from them. That's what they're asking you to accept. But all I say to them is that they sound very much like some denizens of Frederick Street who live behind a high concrete wall. If you go in there to visit them, all of them telling you how innocent they are. All of them in the royal jail telling you how innocent they are. It's only after an investigation and a conviction that they're behind there, still protesting. And we have to accept that we don't have the ability. And they gave you another assurance, this time not in the parliament, outside the parliament, for its word. They said, in fact, we got it in the parliament from the Prime Minister on the day. They will cooperate with every aspect of any investigation. Remember that? And the next thing we know, they hire what they consider to be the best criminal lawyers and begin to lawyer the issue to death, writing all kinds of letters, laying down terms and conditions, making it a legal hurdle before. And before they did that, they brought in a carpetbagger, put him in Federation Park, spend days going through all the computers, and then carry the computers to the police service. I'm saying to you tonight, when they brought it to the police as evidence, the police said, okay, thank you very much. We'll have it. So no. We'll have it on our terms. And when the police didn't agree to taking it on their terms, they never left it. They carried it back home. They still have it. They still have it. That is how Trinidad and Tobago set about to find out if there are people in the cabinet who are guilty of criminal conduct as alleged by the content of the emails. And you know what I want to tell you? Google didn't respond. I don't see Google name anywhere on Tobago's Trinidad Constitution. Google is a company in America. From the day they started that foolishness, I instructed my lawyer, write the Integrity Commission and tell the Integrity Commission they have carte blanche to go anywhere into anything that concerns me. No government minister has done that. They have the high-priced lawyers playing block and tackle and telling you, yes, we are innocent. And they want you to accept that. And the big announcement that you expect to hear is that the government has finally conceded that it ought to come clean and do right by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Instead of that, you're hearing Rodney Charles is coming to be in charge of the election campaign. Well, let me respond to that tonight. And I may be wrong. The last time I talked, they say I was wrong, that my friend wasn't in Tapia and Tapia didn't fight the PLM in the political arena. I seem to recall Rodney Charles was around in the NAR days. And he was opposed to the PNM. And he may have been a functionary in there. And I seem to regard that result. There were 31 seats up for grab in Trinidad. And they lost all 31. Remember that? I don't think he's any better off now than he was then. We in 34. No, they had 33. They had 33 seats and they lost 31 in Trinidad. And I think Mr. Charles was wrong for that. Tonight, I want to say to them, you could bring King Charles, you could bring Prince Charles, you could bring Charlie the Pudding Man. The PNM will take on all comers. And with the PNM and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, our victory is assured. Because the election in front of us has nothing to do with how much money was stolen and is now fed back into a campaign to ask the victims to be impressed by the expenditure and to give them your franchise. Has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with who is managing the campaign. It has everything to do with whether the people of Trinidad and Tobago at the individual level is going to subject themselves to one day more than you have to of this kind of government. That's all. It's your choice. Free country. If you like the abuse, you vote for them. If you want a future that holds out a promise to you that can be realized for a better life for you and your children, to put an end to the nonsense that passes for government, you will vote for the People's National Movement. And the election choices will boil down to three. They'll boil down to three issues. There'll be three groups of people in Trinidad and Tobago. One group that says, I don't care what goes on here. I'm cynical. and nothing in the political arena concerns me because I'm not involved in politics, and I hate the PNM, and I don't like the UNC and all that, so I'm not taking part in anything. That's group one. In which case, it matters not to you if it changes or if they continue. Group two will say, I'm impressed with, I love what's going on, I'm a beneficiary of what's going on, I'm happy with what's going on, and I'll vote for them and keep them in office. And there's group one that will say, I don't like it, I want it changed, and I'm going to intervene to change and fix Trinidad and Tobago under the vehicle of the People's National Movement. And that change you will not make out of any blind faith. You will make it against the background of your knowledge of our substantial record of responsibility and development in Trinidad and Tobago. Not being perfect, but better than all of them. Against a background that we have spent our time in opposition, reviewing all our policies and programs. A lot of new ideas we'll roll out to you, and a lot of ideas for execution of plans and projects to continue developing the infrastructure, and most importantly, the human capital in Trinidad and Tobago. It is that which will make us continue along the road of progress. And under PNM leadership, with Trinidad and Tobago flag flying high, we will go forward in a very difficult world, measuring our progress by ensuring that the next generation continues to do better than the last generation, and that is what we see development as. Making the sacrifices today for those who are coming tomorrow. Taking the pride if we have to suck salt in our meal to make sure that our children don't have to do the same thing. And the same way there were those who made sacrifices for us to move us from where we are to where we are now. We must make those sacrifices for those young ones, many of them misguided, who are depending on us to hold the fort. The young people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether they're 7 years old, 18 years old, they're depending on us to hold the fort against what is threatening to destroy our future. And they're saying silently to the PNM, maybe not even knowing it's the PNM they're talking to, please stand up for Trinidad and Tobago. Give me a chance. Give me an opportunity to live and contribute in this land. And under those circumstances, it's an awesome responsibility. It's an awesome responsibility being placed on our shoulder as a political party and on my shoulder as your leader. This country is depending on the PNM to right the rails so the train can continue. And these elections are all about that. And insofar as nonsensical statements are talking about who was disloyal and what else, of course. But thank God when there was need for somebody to stand up for the PNM and the PNM's fundamental principles, I was that man. So today the PNM can say to the rest of the country that we can present to you within our organization people who know when it is right to stand up for right and when it is right to dissuade others from doing wrong. What else can you ask for? What else can you ask for? And all of us at the end of the day believe that we have the potential to do a whole lot better than we're doing now. And if that is so, we are saying that we're not cynics. We're saying that if we do what is right, our future will be bright. We live largely off the earnings of oil and gas. Fortunately for us, oil prices have remained very high for quite some time. And given what's happening in the international arena, it looks likely that it will remain there. Gas prices have been much higher than we anticipated. External forces, tsunami in Japan, now the annexation of the Caribbean, all of these have effects on our potential because it interferes with the international market. Let us stand fast on this commitment that we can continue to build our country better, that we can continue to be our brother's keeper, holding out to those who need help, that their help is available, and saying to those who have done well and done fantastically well that you need to make an input in this country. And for those with one foot in this country and one foot outside, we say to them, bring both feet in. This is our country, it's our land. Be proud of it and help build it. But you can only do that. You can only do that effectively if you are prepared in this carnival land to call a spade and sometimes march to your own drum. If you simply want to make yourself available to miscreants and misleaders, you will find yourself in the land of dwendom, those looking one way with their feet pointing the other way. I am not inviting you to those lands. I'm inviting you to follow me. Follow me and the PNM to a place where we all will be better off. Having worked with the team that I have endorsed, it's a sense of deep satisfaction and pride that I can say to you, I couldn't have had a better team under the circumstances. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she does it. I don't know who she lives with. But I'm glad it's not me. Because I don't know what Irene Hines does at home. Because every time there's a PNM requirement, Irene Hines is there. I have never known Indar Parasham to be given an assignment, any part in this country as field officer, and he did not get on with it and report back with alacrity. And if you want to join that team, you have to be of that mettle. And that is why I welcome to the team the new vice chairman to be Colum Imbert. And if I was happy with what had happened in the office of treasurer, you would have been hearing nothing today about not wanting slate and independence, wanting to run. Of course, all of you are independent. All of you can run. But the race is not just for those who want to run. It's for those who want to work. Those who want to be part of a team. You're going to give us big shoes to fill because we have a long way to go. And somebody tonight in the open forum gave us the admonition, reminding us that the elections are not going to be easy. I don't want you PNM people, in the face of our recent successes, to translate that into automatic success in the general election. Anything worth having is required to be worked for, and an election victory does not happen because you feel you want to win. You have to work for it, right up to the time the votes are counted. I'm pleased to see you so energized for the local election. Take a deep breath. Massage your muscles, because what you engaged in here is the beginning of the general election campaign. Because when this election is over, if I have anything to do with it, we will go to convention later in the year. And when you would have voted me as your political leader, the first general council after the election will be calling on the rest of the party to continue the process. Party groups will be called upon to have your elections, constituency elections, and so on, as we prepare as normal to go towards a convention. And as we move towards that convention, we'll be sharpening our gilpin, our political gilpins, for anybody who wants to take us on. Because a day of reckoning shall come. They could run, but they can't hide. Time longer than twine. A day of reckoning shall come. And when it comes, we will all gloriously move into battle, hold it at the ramparts, raising our red flag and saying, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.